advocating for educators on the front line. The housing strategy is being identified by national leaders, you've seen in the press, as one of the most original. And that's just the first 6 months. I mean, you know, it's always tough. I guess in politics, it's, you know, when Usain Bolt runs 100 in 9.6 seconds, someone can always say, yeah, but it could have been done in 8. All I can say, though, is the same thing we can do in any measurement. Take the last 6 months and compare it to what you've seen at any time on the poverty front in government. And if we're moving faster than anyone else has gone before, then at some point I think you have to acknowledge it's fast.
So what's the ultimate goal?
Well, what we've identified is lifting 25,000 New Brunswickers out of poverty in the next 5 years. And it's going to take everybody. We've done the things that people who have lived in poverty or those on the front lines have told us are important. We've changed some of those things. Now it's going to take everybody. We're going to have to find ways to get a mentor for every kid in grade 2 who's struggling to read. We're going to have to find ways that affordable housing is connected to jobs with transportation. Business is going to have to come through by making sure that people aren't falling into poverty to pay for drugs and that the minimum wage is something you can actually live on. And obviously people in poverty themselves, they're the ones who ultimately have to grab that hand and take that journey, and that's why the majority of the board are folks with that experience, because this is something we have to do together. And so I guess that's why I call it a collaborative process. I don't think there's any government policy you could change that in and of itself is going to lift 25,000 people out of poverty. If we could sign a law, if all it took was passing an act, I think all 55 MLAs would vote for it. But what it will probably take is a lot of coordinated, hard work from everyone from people themselves to government making good policies to those folks on the front lines like Leopold who say we simply can do better. And I do think we can get there. And ultimately, one reason we've identified, as Jim was saying in the opening measurements, is because we don't intend this to be a pretty declaration. We just like when you say you're going to increase literacy scores, you measure them because you want to be held accountable for that. We want to be held accountable for this.
You always mention people from the rate, the welfare rate goes up, they went up from 300 to 500. But people on a mental disability or physical disability didn't go up at all. Can you explain that?
Yeah, what we did in the covenant, Charles, if you read it, is people identified which rate should go up at which time. And there was a feeling from people who have that experience of living on social assistance that the biggest outrage and the most urgent one to change was folks living on less than $300 a month. Now, obviously other ones have been identified to go up in other years, but I think it was, the fact is that under $300 rate was the lowest. And what we heard from people actually on social assistance is, okay, do that one first and then get to the other ones. And a lot of the rates are going to be changing even in how we calculate them, particularly for people with disabilities.
Mr. Bennett, what do you